How's it going? Today, I'm talking about running is part of your life, not your whole life. This is Running to the Castle, a podcast for slow, back of the pack Run Disney runners on a journey to running magical miles. Join me, Dr. Allie, as I share the secrets I've gathered as a runner, doctor of physical therapy, and coach. You'll learn the exact ways I get my clients to the castle strong, have a bigger buffer ahead of the balloon ladies, and have time to stop for character photos. Keep listening if your goal is to PR in fun, cross the finish line without feeling broken, and have energy to enjoy the Disney parks. One of the most popular questions I get has something to do with, what if I miss a week? What if I miss a long run? What if I can't do running on Mondays and I have to run on Wednesdays? Some form of my schedule isn't allowing me to do this thing the way it's written. What do I do? So that's where my philosophy of running is part of your life. It is not your whole life. On the day this drops, yesterday was World Running Day or Global Running Day or something like that. I will be completely honest with you. I had no idea until I saw it start popping up on Facebook and Instagram of, World Running Day is this day. Go for a run. How far are you running? And in my mind, I said, 0.0 miles. I'm not doing that. Not out of spite or anger or whatever you call that. Like it doesn't fall on a running day for me. And I don't care that much, right? Like I am not going to move around my schedule to make sure I go for some arbitrary run to just because it's Global Running Day. Am I very happy and proud that I can go run? Yes. Do I do it because I can and other people can't? No. It does play a small factor sometimes because honestly, my husband can't just go for a run anymore. And he used to train for half Ironman triathlons. And so there is like a little bit of that in the back of my mind of, when it comes to should I be running or should I go do something else? Occasionally that does come into my mind of, well, you do enjoy running and you can do it. So sometimes that comes to play a role. But I don't revolve my life around running. I fit running into my life. And I think doing that makes me successful in running. It makes me motivated to stay training for something. It keeps me motivated each week to go for a run because it's a nice to have. It's not a need to have, right? In the sense of those phrases. I have found that I enjoy running for one, and it really helps with having control over something when I have next to no control in a lot of my life. And that may be a weird thing to say. I have no idea, but this is one thing I can control. And for any recovering perfectionists, type A personalities, Enneagram 1s, right? Like that having control is a big thing. And you get to have control over your running life. You may not have control over your work life because if you work for somebody else, you might just have to do whatever it is that they say within reason, of course. If I work for myself, so I don't have to answer to a boss. I am the boss. I do have to answer to my clients within reason, right? And so there is some lack of control there, but I do make my program pretty, stronger, faster, finisher. I make it pretty easy to follow for the most part. Of course, there's always going to be a little bit of nuance with following my training schedule, especially because I do put it in a Google spreadsheet. I do have the option now for you to put your workouts on a calendar so that you can see it and you don't have to manipulate the Google sheet, which is great. It's a great option to have. But there still always is going to be something that comes up that the runner can't necessarily do themselves. And I may have to do it relatively quickly even if it's technically my day off, right? Like I do get days off. Running is, a hobby for you. Me coaching is my job. And so I do take time off. I do put my phone on silent. I do request like, hey, don't send me an emergency situation. Cause also anything that is an emergency, I can't help you with anyway. And an emergency, you need to call 911 or call your healthcare provider, right? But there is an element to my work, even though I work for myself, that I do have to answer to people, right? That's the point of this. So there's a little bit of lack of control there, and then with Levi's health issues, there's a little bit of lack of control there. With my husband's health issues, there's total lack of control there. And so this running is something that I can control. I get to control how often I run. I get to control how fast I run to a point, right? Like I can't just go out for a 4 minute per mile pace. Like my body is not going to do that. Not that I want to anyway, but I have some aspects of control, and that helps settle me. I also put it as part of my routine. I am a very routine oriented person. And I have noticed over the years, for a while, I didn't notice that having a routine is what kept me not being on edge, where other people were like always seeming frazzled and like something was going to like just push them over the edge. Like, I think that's a big part of what I see in some parents, some new parents with kids, or maybe with kids who have some disabilities or autism or something like that. This is my personal experience witnessing what has helped some parents and others. Like I've seen a set of parents with children who have autism in particular, and going from having no routine to routine calmed everybody down. And it was wild for me to see. And I had never really put two and two together of that's one reason why I am not always like living at a high level. And if something, just one little thing, the straw that broke the camel's back, pushed me over the edge. But I do notice now when I have lack of control that I am up there. And it's like, don't breathe wrong around Allie because she's probably going to burst into tears, because that's usually the way it goes. I'm not a huge yeller. It is, if I'm super happy, I'm going to cry. If I'm upset, I'm going to cry. If I'm angry, I'm going to cry. If I'm overwhelmed, I'm going to cry. So that's usually what it is, right? Like, don't breathe wrong around Allie. She's going to burst into tears, or she's just going to have this slow trickle of tears coming down her face. That will happen. But I notice that the more I feel in control with different things, and the more routine, more of the routine is leading towards this, where I'm just like, okay, this is just what I do. And it's like the predictability of it. And so that's one of the reasons why I write my training plans the way I write them. And so for anybody who is new, welcome. I recommend 2 rest days, most days, not most days a week, Allie. 2 rest days most weeks, 2 cross training days most weeks, 3 running days most weeks. That is what I recommend. That is not the bare minimum to cross the finish line, but I'm not talking about that. This is the ideal situation, right? But that leaves room for some weeks have more rest days, some weeks have more cross training days, some weeks have a little bit more running days. Not a ton, but especially if you're running dopey, I do recommend that those weeks, some weeks have simulation runs or trainings. You could walk it to simulate the 5K, 10K, half, and full marathon, not full distances. The simulation week. Let me know if you want me to go into what simulation weeks for 2-course challenge, dopey, mainly. Yeah, let me know. If you want to hear how I dive into having that done, let me know. Send me a message on Instagram, runDisneyDPT. And let me know what you think if you want me to talk about that. But anyway, most weeks, 2 rest days, 2 cross training days, 3 running days. And between those 3 running days, 1 is an easy long run. Now remember, I do use those terms synonymously, easy and long run. A long run should always be easy. And an easy run is usually a long run. However, there is on occasion, like when you're tapering down for a race, it's only 45 minutes or 60 minutes sometimes. And then 2 of those running days are speed workout days if you have a goal of improving your finish time, getting faster, having time for character stops. But running isn't your whole life, and it doesn't have to be. Like, I see on Instagram, I see these runners who are training for marathons, just as an example, and they are doing 2-a-days and they are running 70 miles a week. Do you need to do that? For the audience that is listening to this podcast, I believe you do not. You do not need to be running 70 miles a week in order to cross the finish line with still having energy, feeling strong, having time for character stops. Does running 70 miles a week make you better? I don't know. What's better? That's a subjective term. But these runners who I'm seeing, and I follow them. I started following this one person because she ran in Alaska, and I thought that was wild, where she's running outdoors in like -3 degrees Fahrenheit. Her eyelashes are crystalling over. And I thought it was fascinating because I could never, right? Like, we've heard, if you are if you are new here, I giggle because it's true. I do it, but it also sounds ridiculous. You will find me in a down coat in 50-degree weather here in Las Vegas. I am not running outside in that temperature. And I am not in shorts and a t-shirt. You can find me in shorts and a t-shirt maybe in July, maybe. But even then, I'm still covering up because I am pale as a ghost and my family has a history of skin cancer. So I would rather not fall into that category. So anyway, running doesn't have to run your life. You don't have to do 70-mile weeks for marathon training. You don't have to do 2-a-days. You don't have to do any of that. You have a different life than that person. You may have kids. Maybe you don't have kids. I don't have kids. My kid has 4 paws and he does have hair, not fur. So I can't say he's fur, but sometimes I do call him my 4-legged fur family. But you have a different life than that. But that's not to say that if every once in a while to make running fit into your schedule, you split up that long run. So you technically do 2-a-days, but not for the same reason as that other person. That other person is doing 2-a-days, super long miles. Super is subjective, but they're splitting up and doing like a 15-mile long run in the morning and then 8 more miles later in the day because they need to add volume to their weekly mileage. You do not need to do that if you do not want to do that. But you may have a 15-mile long run that is going to take you 5 hours to do. That's a long time. What if you have 3 hours now to be able to go do that, but then you have your kid's soccer game and t-ball game and whatever. Maybe you just want to go to brunch with people. I don't know. You have your own life. You can have whatever reason you want for not having 5 hours to go for a long run right now. Split it up. Do 3 hours in the morning. Get to, I don't know how many miles that would be for you based on your pace, and then finish later in the day, or do it in the evening and then finish up in the morning. In that same 24-hour block is fine every once in a while. So those 2 runs, I recommend not have to. There are no have tos. I recommend that if you're going to split up that long run, do it within a same 24-hour block and don't do it every single weekend. But every once in a while, sure. And I will say with the caveat of if it's your longest long run and you've never done that distance before, like if you're training for your first marathon, it's your 20-mile long run, I do recommend not splitting that one up because at that point, it's a lot of mental game. And I recommend running that 20-mile long run for the length of time you're going to be out on that course. So if your marathon on marathon day is going to take you 7 hours, I do recommend that 20 miler take you 7 hours and you do it in one go. But every once in a while, if you have another long run leading up to that, that you have to split up for whatever reason, maybe you don't plan to split it up, but it starts pouring or it starts snowing or it starts lightning out. And you're like, there is no way I can finish this outside, or there's no way I can finish this right now. Go home, finish the rest later. I know that one was out of your control, right? Like that's weather dependent. You could also go back in and finish it on the treadmill. In the Northern Hemisphere, I do know that some listeners are not in the United States. They're not even in the Northern Hemisphere. Maybe they're in Australia. So we have flip-flopped seasons, right? But now in the Northern Hemisphere where I am, we are getting into summer. And it's at the time of recording this, it's 10 a.m. It's already 90 degrees where I live in Las Vegas. It will be 100 by the end of the day. And so like 4 o'clock, it will be 100 degrees. Well, if I normally run at 4 o'clock, I'm probably not running outside. So I could take it to the treadmill. But what if I decide to go out, try and run as much as I can outside before it gets hot? So let's say I'm going out at 8 o'clock in the morning and I just decide, you know what, this is just too hot for me. I'll go home. I'll go run on the treadmill. Go run to the gym. Go drive to the gym. Finish up on the treadmill. Absolutely. That's fine. Get it done however works in your schedule. It doesn't make you any less of a runner if you run on the treadmill. It doesn't make you any more of a runner, less of a runner if you run outside. Running does not have to control your life. Fit it where it can fit. I do recommend if you have a goal of getting faster that you include speed workouts. You know, I have 4 recommended speed workouts: 30, 20, 10, progression run, tempo run, and hills. Somebody asked me the other day, why do you include hills? Like, what's the science behind it? And I said, honestly, I have no idea the science behind it. I have not looked it up. I purely put hills in there because of the runDisney ramps. You run up those on and off ramps at Disney World. You need to be able to run up and down those. And then there are some hills and some ramped areas behind the scenes at the park, within the park. Just different parts of the park have some elevation. So you need to practice that. That's why I do hills. Does running hills make you faster? Yes, it does. It strengthens your legs. It makes you push hard in a hard environment, right? Like, you know, it's one way to make yourself like just push your limits by not doing the same thing over and over and over again. And, you know, we have to push our limits. We have to push our ceiling to get faster, get out of the gray zone. If you haven't heard me talk about the gray zone, I have a whole podcast episode about it. I probably have multiple at this point. I probably will do more. So if you are not new to the gray zone and you have questions about it, send me a DM, runDisney DPT, over on Instagram, and I'll make some more podcast episodes about it. If you are new to hearing me say the gray zone, I will link in the show notes the episodes where I talk about the gray zone. Go listen. But getting back to the point, running is part of your life. It's not your whole life. It doesn't have to be your whole life if you don't want it to be. If you want it to be your whole life, absolutely great. I love that for you. But it doesn't have to be your whole life. And you can fit it in where it fits in. If you never want to run a marathon, you can be a runner and not run a marathon. If you love 10K distances, you can be a runner and run only 10K distances. You can run only 10 milers. You can run only half marathons. You can run only any distance you want. There are Olympians who don't run more than 1 mile because their distance is the short distances. I don't even know what they are: 50 meter, 100 meter, 400 meter, whatever they are. But there are Olympians on record saying, I've never run, or I never, not maybe in the way distant past they have, I don't run more than 1 mile. Point blank, they don't do it. They're still runners. And then there are some other runners who don't run any less than 10 miles ever when they go out. I don't understand that. I'm not them. I don't need to understand it. For me, I like to be able to go out and not feel like I'm dying while I'm doing it, because that's how I get to enjoy it, right? Like if I'm constantly feeling like I'm dying and gasping for breath as I'm going for a run, I'm, I'm not a masochist. Like that is not enjoyable. Why would I keep doing it? That's one of the reasons why I do run walk intervals. It makes it so much more enjoyable for me. And I go super slow on easy runs, because it is the best way to get faster. Go slow on your slow days so you can push hard on your hard days. And also, I get to zone out during my long, easy runs. I put on a podcast, I put on an audiobook, I do my best thinking. I said it a couple of podcast episodes ago, I think, or maybe I did it on a coaching call, but I will not change from my AirPods, my Apple AirPods for running. I really have had the idea like, oh, I should get some shocks for how they fit and, the open ear and the bone conducting and whatever. I'm like, oh, I would love that. Well, I want to be able to just call out to my AirPods. I literally will call out loud and I'll say, hey, Siri, set a reminder. And then my phone just went off because I said that phrase. But I say that to set a reminder of what I want to remember. And it's usually like a podcast episode or, write this email or make this Instagram reel or do this thing or don't forget to send this client this question or whatever it is. And I'm not going to stop my run in the middle to do those things. So I just call out, but that's how I can do that. So if you've ever thought like, oh, people doing the runner's high or people just zoning out on a run, how do they do that? They do it by going slower. They do it by being able to enjoy it and not having to constantly catch their breath and, oh my God, when is my next walk break coming? And, oh, am I done yet? And not have to think about any of that. And you just go out. Like I think of Penny from the Big Bang Theory. And when Sheldon is starting to get on this health kick and he's like, oh, I'm going to go run with Penny. And Penny doesn't have any gear. She doesn't have a tracker. She doesn't have headphones. She doesn't have anything. And Sheldon's like, well, how do you know how far you go? And she goes, I run until I'm hungry. I get a donut and I run home. And he's like, what? And that's what makes it enjoyable for her. She doesn't follow any stats. Now, of course, I love my data. I love my stats. But like, what makes it enjoyable for you? Maybe you don't actually like running. Maybe you should be walking. That's fine. That is 100% fine. Maybe different running intervals would make it more enjoyable for you. Maybe running slower on those long, easy runs would make it more enjoyable for you. One of my clients in Stronger, Faster, Finisher, she had said to me, like she has thanked me multiple times, which I greatly appreciate, for the permission to go slower on those long runs. And so when she started going slower on those long runs, she was like, I started making it an adventure. I started going different places and being able to be aware of my surroundings and take it all in. So she would go and run around lakes. She ran from one state to another at one point. She runs on, I think, different trails, or I at least have clients who choose different trails to go run on to enjoy it. And that's how they enjoy running. They couldn't do that before when they were pushing their speed limits every single time going for a long run because they couldn't wait for the next break. And they were too focused on how they had to feel miserable during this run to make it worth it. I'm putting words in their mouth, but I'm kind of that's kind of summarizing what people have told me in the past. Like in order for it to be worth it, like I need to huff and puff and really sweat, and if I don't feel like I'm dying at the end of it, did I do anything? You don't have to feel that way. And then so once these runners weren't feeling that way, they could look up. They could literally stop and smell the roses because it wasn't all about how fast could I do this. They could enjoy seeing people around them the trees changing color in the fall if they live in that kind of area, and make it work for you. Make running enjoyable so it's sustainable and you can keep doing it for however long you want. Do you want to keep running into your 30? I'm not talking to teenagers. Do you want to keep running into your 80s? How do you do that? Well, you have to enjoy it. If it's not enjoyable, it's not going to happen. And with that, going back to the beginning when I was saying like 2 rest days, 2 cross training days, 3 running days, incorporate non-running days kind of for running economy, for improving your heart and your lung function. So then when you do push your limits, you're pushing your limits even further. You're not, creating stamina. You can build your endurance somewhere else, right? Like I was talking to a new client the other day about strength training and not being able to run just yet, but doing other cross training exercises, activities, riding a bike, using the elliptical. So when she is cleared to start running, that she can just start running. Now, of course, I have a very specific way of doing that, but she's not going to also be fighting her breathing rate and her high heart rate at the same time. It will be like, okay, she can just go and run whatever the distance is that we decide is safe and not have to worry about can her breathing and heart rate keep up, because we're going to work on that with riding a bike, using an elliptical, swimming, stuff like that now. So then in 3 months, when she's cleared to run, or whenever that is, that's an arbitrary number I just chose, that she can just keep going. And so you can use cross training for that. And also, it's kind of like what's the phrase? It has to rain for you to enjoy the sunshine or something. God, I'm really butchering this. But you know what I mean? Like you enjoy the sunshine more when it rains every once in a while. So it's like that's not a great comparison. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but if you add in the cross training and change it up, I find that you appreciate the running more when it's time to run. And it becomes less of a chore because the running is only 3 days a week, sometimes 4. So you're still exercising, you're still improving your cardiovascular fitness, you're still improving your strength, but in a different way. So then when it comes time to do a speed workout or a long run, it's new and novel almost. And so it's still exciting. And it's not just, another long run. Oh, here's another run. Like if you're running 5 miles Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then you have a 10-mile long run on Saturday, to me, that adds up to like, oh God, it's another 5-mile plus run. Oh my God. And eventually it gets old. But if you're doing different cross training and you're doing different running, it still stays new and novel. It's another benefit of cycling through 4 speed workouts, because then you only do the same speed workout twice a month, yet you still improve. Because if you change things up too differently, your body doesn't have that progressive overload in the same way, and so you don't get better, faster, stronger. But if you change it up just enough, it keeps things interesting and you still improve. So you have 30, 20, 10, you have hills, you have tempo, and you have progression run, and you do 30, 20, 10 in progression run on week 1, you do hills and tempo on week 2, you go back to 30, 20, 10 in progression week 3, and then you go back to tempo and hills week 4. And then you just keep cycling through odd and even weeks. Keeps it pretty interesting. Now, of course, if that's not for you after you've tried it for 2 months, switch it and do the workouts that you like. And then you have 1 long run most weeks. And so it's different enough, but the same enough so that you do make progress, but you don't get bored and it doesn't start feeling like a chore. And so that's why I program the way I do. And then rest days come in handy because you build strength on rest days and when you sleep. You don't build it. You don't actually build it. You break it down. You break your muscle down during a strength workout, and then it rebuilds and repairs when it's resting. It can't repair while it's constantly being challenged. So you do need rest breaks, rest days because of that to get stronger and faster and not run yourself into the ground and not get injured. And also, it helps make you appreciate the days that you can go work out. But if you need to change around rest days every once in a while, yes, find a skeleton workout, like a skeleton schedule that works most of the time. But then if some days need to be rest days that normally are workout days, so be it. Make it work for your life. Running will fit into your life the way you want it to. You don't need your life to revolve around running. I know I was a little all over the place with this episode. It's been thoughts that have been on my mind based on conversations I've been having with multiple people. And then, like I said, Global Running Day is around. And I want you to know that you can make running fit into your life however you want it to fit in, and you're still a runner.